the spaces in between.
Why do I age?
And more important, what am I going to do about it? I think I most acutely feel age when I substitute memories for dreams, when I hold on to past pain that limits the flow into my service and spirit vessel of the abundance that I know is out there and in here. My earliest mentor in life was when I was 15. I had a Sunday school teacher in Seattle, Bill Quillian. He was an Olympic caliber tennis player whose career and life were cut short when he contracted polio. I spent so many hours in the evenings talking to Bill, trying to understand what is the spirit that animated this guy, his lust for life, his unquenchable spirit, even though he was confined to a wheelchair and he couldn't pursue his career. And I never really did figure it out. But he said to me at one point, he said, "John, none of this matters." He said, "What really matters is spirit and service." Spirit and service. Well, I tried to figure that out, what he meant. Well, about a decade later, I stumbled across a book by the Buddhist monk Pema Chodron called When Things Fall Apart. And in that book, she reiterated the fundamental truth of Buddhism that everything happens for a reason. Well, at that point in my life, in my 20s, things were really falling apart. My birth family crashed and burned. My parents became people I didn't recognize. My father, guilty of heinous and hideous crimes. So I escaped and drove over the mountains to work on my German grandfather's farm near Wenatchee. And one day we were working far from the main house and the tractor stalled. And so Grandpa checked the fuel tank and it was empty. And I said, "Oh, Grandpa, no worries. Everything happens for a reason." And Grandpa, in his typical cold comfort, said, "Yeah, and the reason is you forgot to fill the fuel tank." So, lesson in pragmatic Buddhism. So, I spent a lot of time the next decades filling my fuel tank. I had got married, raised a bunch of kids, had a successful business, and thought things were going pretty good. I really came to believe that only good things happen to good people, and that this process was a process of filling my tank and doing what seemed like the right things to be doing. Well, bad things can happen to good people. And at the deepest, darkest, most tragic moment of my life, when I was struggling with the grief over the death of a child, I reached out to a rabbi, Rabbi Zev Schiff, who wrote the book on grieving called When Bad Things Happen to Good People, oddly enough. And he said to me, "Jonathan, you probably feel at this moment like the fire in your life is about to go out." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Blow on the coal of your heart. And that single remaining ember will reignite your life, your life's passion, your life purpose." Well, there's nothing like grief to put the age on you. So I sought some kind of a pivot, and I wanted to head down on a totally new, unmarked, unfamiliar path. So I sold my business, let go of my 30 employees, sold the Mercedes and the Jag and the house in Coconut Grove, went to graduate school, and became an elementary school teacher. quite a pivot. My first job was at Calusa Elementary in Miami, Florida, a central city school of 1,250 kids. I was the only Anglo male teacher in a staff of 79 Hispanic females. It wasn't really such a bad gig. I mean, anyway, my first day when I opened up that fourth grade classroom, that would have been Ellery's fourth grade class. And then at the end of the day, little Alejandro Ortega, a 10-year-old kid, raised his hand and said, "Mr. Gans, thank you so much for being here today. What's your real job?" I'm sure he was shocked when I came back the next day. He probably thought I'd been fired. So, I found a whole new source of energy that propelled me forward, away from grief and aging, not allowing them to stand in front of me and block my path or limit my life, limit my opportunities, limit my happiness. So, I think I found that a nicely calibrated life was one where what I most feared had actually the tantalizing taste of adventure. And adventure really finally starts when things get out of control. So, I think I've found the flow that reverses aging, that vivid, vivacious, vital flow of spirit that calls me to be of service to the human community, to my family community, my school's community, to this community that I love so much. And I try to fill my tank with that every day, and then let things get out of control. Thank you.